So, what makes a country truly wealthy? Is it gold, oil, maybe vast amounts of land? Well, we're going to explore a really powerful idea today that a nation's greatest, most valuable asset is actually its people. And we're going to unpack this whole concept with a simple story that makes it all crystal clear.
All right, let's dive right in with the story of two friends, Danu and Misri. Now, they grew up in the exact same small village. Their families had pretty similar backgrounds, but their lives went in completely different directions. Let's find out why.
So you can see their paths laid out right here. On one side, you have Misri. Her parents, even though they were just farm laborers, they really understood the value of education and health. They made sure she went to school, they made sure she was looked after. Danu's parents, on the other hand, they thought it was better for him to start working right away. So school, health, those things kind of fell by the wayside. And because of that, he was sick a lot and never really learned a skill. And the results? They couldn't be more different. Misri finishes her training, gets a good office job with a decent salary. Danu, well, he ends up too unhealthy to even be a good fisherman, and he's left just struggling to get by. So it really makes you wonder, what was the one thing that made all the difference? This story about two friends actually scales up to a massive question for entire countries, and it gets right to the heart of what we're talking about today. Is a nation's population a burden, or is it a benefit? You've probably heard this before, right? The idea that a huge population is a problem, that it puts a massive strain on food, schools, hospitals, basically that it's a liability, a cost that holds a country back. But is that really the whole story? Okay, so this is one side of the coin. When people don't have education, skills, or good health, they can become a drain on the economy. It's tough for them to even take care of themselves, let alone contribute to the country. This is exactly what happened to Dania. But here's the flip side. When you invest in people, when they get an education, when they're healthy, when they have skills, they become this incredibly powerful asset, just like Misri. They don't just build a better life for themselves, they literally help build a better country for everyone. And this gets us to this huge economic idea called human capital. You can think of it like this. A country might have tons of land or oil or money, but that's all just raw material. Human capital, the skills, the knowledge, the health of its people, that's the engine that actually turns all those resources into something productive. And you can see this playing out all over the world. Just look at Japan, a country with almost no natural resources. But what did they do? They invested massively in their people, in their education and health, and they became one of the strongest economies on the planet. And then you can contrast that with some nations in Africa that are sitting on incredible natural wealth, but because they haven't invested enough in their people, they've struggled to grow. Okay, so it's pretty clear that human capital is absolutely crucial. So the next obvious question is, how does a country actually build it? How do you turn your population into an economic powerhouse? Well, it really boils down to these three things. It's a formula almost. You need education to build knowledge, healthcare to make sure people are strong and productive, and job training to give them the specific skills the economy needs. This is the recipe for turning a potential liability into a massive asset. But, it's not always that simple. There are real challenges. Take a look at the literacy gap between men and women in India. When half of your population isn't getting the same chance to learn, you're essentially fighting with one hand tied behind your back. You're leaving so much potential on the table. And that investment isn't even spread out evenly across the country. I mean, look at this staggering difference in literacy rates between states in India. You've got Kerala, which is up around 96%, and then Bihar, which is way, way behind. That creates these huge pockets of undeveloped human capital. So let's talk about the single biggest enemy of human capital: unemployment. What's the point of investing in people, educating them, and training them if there are no jobs for them at the end? Now, unemployment isn't just one thing. There's what's called seasonal unemployment, like for farm workers who only have work during planting and harvesting. Then there's disguised unemployment. That's when you have, say, 5 people doing a job that really only needs 3. And maybe the most frustrating is educated unemployment, when people get all the right qualifications but still can't find a job that actually uses their skills. At the end of the day, any kind of unemployment is just a terrible waste of human potential, and it creates what economists call an economic overload. Basically, the small number of people who are working have to support a growing number of people who aren't, and that puts a huge strain on the whole system. All right, let's bring this all home. From Danu and Misri's story to the economies of entire countries, it all really boils down to a pretty simple final equation.
So you end up with two possible paths for a society. On one hand, you have a vicious cycle. Uneducated parents can't invest in their kids, who then grow up deprived and become a liability themselves. But then there's the virtuous cycle. Educated parents invest in their kids, who grow up to be skilled, productive adults. Assets. This is the whole story of Danu versus Misri, just on a national scale.
So after looking at all this, from personal stories to global economics, what does it all point to? What is the one investment that matters more than anything else for a country's future? It couldn't be clearer, could it? The single best, highest return investment a nation can possibly make is in the health, education, and skills of its own people. Everything else is built on that foundation. And that's the big idea. So I'll leave you with this final thought to chew on. Think about your own community. What's one way we could all invest better in our people to make sure every single person has the chance to become a powerful asset, not just for themselves, but for all of us?